Imagine opening your eyes each morning and instantly recognizing colors, shapes, faces, and motion. It feels effortless, but inside your brain, billions of signals are racing from your eyes, decoding the world in ways most of us never stop to think about. For Margaret Livingstone, understanding how that miracle happens became a lifelong quest. Born in 1950, Livingstone grew up fascinated by both science and art, two fields that would later shape her career in surprising ways. She studied biology and eventually earned her PhD in neurobiology from Harvard University in 1977, beginning a career dedicated to uncovering how the brain processes visual information. In the years that followed, Livingstone joined the faculty at Harvard Medical School, where she began studying the visual system, one of the most complex information networks in the human body. In laboratories filled with microscopes and sophisticated recording equipment, she traced the paths that visual signals take from the eye into the brain. Her research helped reveal something remarkable. Vision isn't handled by a single part of the brain. Instead, different neural pathways specialize in different jobs. Some circuits detect color, while others track movement, and others recognize shapes and faces. Together, these systems work like a team of processors, building the rich visual world we experience every second. But Livingstone noticed something even more intriguing. Artists seem to understand parts of the system long before scientists did. In 2002, she published the book Vision and Art: The Biology of Seeing, explaining how famous works of art often take advantage of the brain's visual processing systems. Certain paintings appear to shimmer, glow, or move because artists, sometimes unknowingly, use techniques that interact with the brain's motion and color pathways. Through decades of research, Margaret Livingstone helped scientists understand seeing is not simply about the eyes. It's about the brain interpreting patterns of light and information. Her discoveries have influenced fields ranging from neuroscience and psychology to art, computer displays, and virtual reality, helping designers and scientists create technologies that work better with the human visual system. So the next time you watch a moving crowd, admire a painting, or notice the colors of a sunset, remember, your eyes may capture the light, but it's your brain that creates the view. And thanks to the work of Margaret Livingstone, beginning in the 1970s and continuing for decades, we're finally beginning to understand how that extraordinary process comes into focus. So, Natasha, what do you think about how our brain takes in information?
Yeah, I was trying to see where you were going with it because I know our topic of today, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, but then does it take that information and turn it into images in our brains for only some people? Because I want that.
Apparently, yeah. So, background on where we were going with today is you discovered something about yourself, and I actually don't know how this happened. So, if you could kind of lead us to where we are, Natasha, because we've been holding on to this nugget of discovery about how your brain works for a while, because I didn't want to talk about it until we were on mics. So, what's going on with you? What's wrong with you, and how did you
Oh,
discover it?
that's a great question. I can't remember what social media platform it was. Maybe it was like TikTok or Facebook or something. It was one of those quizzes,
Mm.
and it's like, are you this or that? And so this was a quiz for can you see things in your brain? And I was like, okay, sure, let's take the quiz. And so this one had to do with visualizing an apple. And I know you have a quiz today for us to take. So I don't know if it's the same one. But it was one question and it just said, imagine an apple right now, like picture it in your mind. And then they presented options and they said, which of these is closest to what you see? And this was a very, very confusing question to me because I was like, what do you mean picture an apple in your mind? Like you are telling me that people can literally see an apple in their mind right now? Like this was just blowing my mind because whenever I had to do those like meditation things. I remember one year, like in high school, a teacher had us all like close our eyes and pretend like, you're sitting on the beach, and we were doing like visual imagery to like help us relax.
Yeah.
I was so confused. Like my mind was just wandering all over the place. I had all these running thoughts, and I thought it was just like the idea of being on the beach. I didn't know people actually imagine themselves on the beach. And so this just got me so fascinated, and really kind of just, I could not believe that other people can actually see things in their mind's eye. Like that, to me, a mind's eye was just a very like abstract thing. So whenever I read books or like think back on memories, there's like nothing in my brain. Like I'm not seeing anything. I'm very it's very abstract. It's very hard for me to explain, but it is crazy that other people can like play movies in their mind. So my sister and I had the conversation, and she has very vivid imagery. So she can play very high definition. Like the apple to her is a crisp apple, shiny red. She gives it texture. Like we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. So I have been really thinking a lot about this because we studied engineering, right? And a big piece of this is spatial reasoning. And I'm like, was I at a disadvantage this whole time? So that's where I'm at.
I don't know. I'm just touching the waters of this because I also was not aware that there are differences in how people visualize. I mean, I knew some of it because I remember taking what was that? Like what I thought were the smart kids back in elementary school, that group that neither one of us, we've talked about this before, neither one of us got into. This was like a group of special kids that got to do special homework and
Oh,
things.
like GT?
Yeah, they called it something different when I was in school. I don't remember. But yeah, it
Oh, I
was
know you're
like
talking. Yeah.
the GT kids, and they had to take a test, and I remember there was something about a box and like the way you could visualize folding this box. And apparently I answered this question wrong, and so I didn't get into it, and I was so disappointed. I was like, I am dumb. I'm the dumb kid. I don't get to be with these special kids because I don't know how to fold a box in my brain. But it's like whatever. That's the extent that I've thought that people like there's the spectrum of how we visualize things. I thought that was like a growth thing, like, well, when you get better at it or you just need to train at it, which I'm sure there's parts of that as well. But I didn't know that there was this kind of level of difference in how people visualize. And I think it's more of a superpower for you, Natasha, because obviously you're brilliant, but you don't see things in your brain. How do you I can't comprehend that. So for those of you on the STEM space chase that are sitting on a chase somewhere listening to this, I'm going to read to you, and I don't know how to pronounce this. What is it that you have, Natasha? What is your
Okay, so here's the problem. I don't either, but I know it in Greek. So
Oh, yeah, because it's
aphantasia.
Greek.
Yeah, it's a Greek word, aphantasia, like you can't imagine things. So I've been saying it aphantasia, but I have no idea if that's right. So
Okay, that's how I'm saying it in my head, but then that
okay.
makes me think, do I hear things differently in my head than how other people process words in their head?
Probably.
But yeah, spelled Aphantasia. Aphantasia is how I would read it as well. So the aphantasia test is to imagine a red apple.
Oh, it is the
What
same.
do you see? That is the test. So if you're a 1, you say perfectly realistic, as clear as seeing a red apple. Like if you were to open your eyes and look at a red apple, you see it the same way if you just visualize a red apple. If you're a 2, it's realistic and reasonably clear in your brain, but not super vivid. 3, moderately realistic and clear. 4, dim, vague, or faint outlines. Or 5, if you're Natasha, no image at all. You only know that you're thinking of a red apple. Is this correct?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Okay, so I fall on the spectrum. I'm the hyperphantasia. I see it
Like
super,
my
I can
sister.
taste it, I can smell it. I see the shine on the apple. I can tell you where the sun is relative to how I see the apple because I can see where the shine is in the shadow. Like it's all there. Which apparently can lead to other issues. And I've only just started Googling these things about how like we get I can get confused between things that I've imagined and reality. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I am getting
That's why
confused.
you're like, "I thought I sent you the email."
Yeah, because I
I
can
mean,
visualize
maybe.
it, or all the time with texting. I'm like, "I replied to that," or "We had this conversation," but that's more vocal, so I don't know how this all interconnects with just visual versus everything else. Because another part of this that is another tangent is whether or not you narrate in your head, and we've talked some
Mm,
about that, Natasha. So, you when you read a book, do you hear a voice in your head?
yes.
Is it your voice? Or
Uh,
what you think you sound like? It's not like a British man speaking or something like that.
well, now
Or
I'm,
is
like,
it
questioning out my whole reality.
right?
Like, what does it mean to hear a voice in your head?
Like, if I were to read a book out loud and then I were to read it in my head, it sounds the same to me.
Okay, no, I do
No,
not. I do
yours
not
is
then.
different. Okay, wait, how is it different though?
I'm like, I don't like, if I'm talking to myself, like, I have a narrator in my head, right? Like, when I'm processing things, like, I'm thinking through it, but there's
Yes.
not literally a boombox in my head.
What okay, this might need to be another podcast because I don't even
Okay,
know
'cause
how you
I
test
can't
this.
control the sound of that voice or, like, the
I
it's
don't think I
just, like
control it. It just is. It's my voice talking in my head.
okay, we'll
I don't
catch
know.
that one later.
Okay, I don't know if that's connected. So, yeah, we'll focus on visual. We'll
Okay.
visualize. Yes. Okay. So, it's so interesting how people are different. And what's the difference between visualization versus imagination? That's really complex because that builds on other cognitive experiences and not just the visual aspect. So, I don't even know how all of this works, but it's so interesting that there's differences in how people visualize. And so this makes me think, and I obviously haven't done research on this much, but when we are teaching students, especially in engineering, where spatial reasoning, like you said, is so important, are there different ways that we need to approach visualization and uh, to help kids understand things? Or is it becoming easier now that we have like 3D modeling that's more advanced? What is helpful for you if you're trying to understand how to put parts together, if you're building something? Is it like what helps you the most?
Yeah, I think whenever we talk about, like, when you're trying to describe something, it's really hard for me to be able to visually think it through. So I have to, like, sit down and draw it, right, to make
Mm,
it more real to me. And so I feel like some people in their mind can just, like, visualize exactly what they wanna design. Say you're trying to solve, like, some engineering design challenge. Like, it's really hard for me to, like, visually come up with it, but that doesn't mean I can't come up with a solution in my mind. Like, I can come up with the idea of a solution, if that makes sense.
yes and no. I mean, I just can't separate from what I like, how do you have a thought,
So,
but
like
you don't see it?
right. So, for example, facial recognition is really hard for me. Like, my
Mm,
husband, anytime he's seen somebody, he will never forget a face, and he'll, "Oh, I remember you from, like, 5 years ago," and the person's like, "What?" Like, I have a really hard time remembering faces and placing them in situations. So, like, I don't hold on to memories
yeah,
very well, which also is a good thing. So, like, bad memories don't have as much of an impact on me because 'cause they're not as, like, powerful, like, where I feel like you probably replay a lot of memories, and I can't imagine, like, going to sleep and you're just, like, replaying your day, like, that's crazy to me. But I can dream, which is other weird thing. Like, I have vivid dreams where I see things. So my brain is capable.
and this might be the difference between visualization and imagination. They're saying that those two things are different. And that's what this lady, Dr. Margaret Livingstone, and how she determined that there's different parts of the brain that are responsible for different parts of our visualization. Like facial recognition is not the same thing as like shapes and colors or movement. Those are all done in different parts of the brain. So maybe the pathway to facial recognition for you is different. So that makes it more challenging for you to remember faces. But I mean, maybe you're more advanced or solid pathway. I don't know how you what you would call that for
Yeah.
other things that are making your dreams more vivid. I don't know.
Yeah, but I would say going back to like your question about teaching, the biggest disadvantage I faced was memorization. I cannot memorize things very easily. So anytime we had a homework, like I think it was, I mean, an exam in school, like I remember it was like Chisma's class, and we had to memorize all these freaking equations, and that was so extremely difficult for me. And it felt like really unfair because like when in school am I going to have, I mean, when in the real world am I not going to have access to the equations? Whereas like thermodynamics, which was open book, like I was a superstar in that class because I had all the resources, but it felt like you were cutting me at the knees when I had to memorize equations for an exam. Or like when I would play piano,
Mhm.
I was great at piano until the recital. And then I was forced to memorize the songs, and I was not good because I can't, it was really hard for me to memorize, and it's extremely stressful. And so I would just have to play it and play it and play it and play it until it was like muscle memory. But as soon as I convinced my piano teacher to let me bring the book to the recital, I was great. You know what I mean? Like I had no nerves, nothing. And so that to me, like the what's that class? Scholastic, we had to memorize the freaking airplanes. Like that was
Mhm.
so hard. Why is that something I need to do? Right. And so maybe as like a K-12 teacher, when you're forcing kids to memorize things, just think about those differences in learning. And like, is it really important for them to memorize everything? Like spelling, for example, we should learn to spell, right? And we need to learn words and things like that. But for example, like math, having to memorize all the equations, I don't know, just sometimes
Mhm.
felt very unfair.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's a really interesting point that you make. Do you remember how I studied, how I made my notes in
In
college?
colors.
I did all on one page, on front side of the page, and they were all in different colors,
Hmm.
which makes sense why I needed to do that and why you didn't, because I can still see it in my brain. Like I can still picture the pages.
You would just
I
like take a
can
picture.
I can look back at my what class? Pre-cal class in high school that had all the functions on it. There was a page in the book, it was page 83, and it had all of the functions on it. I can still see it in my brain. So, memorizing was really easy for me if I could put it in a way that I could visualize it really clearly with colors. I had the multicolor clicky pen, which is still my favorite. I have lots of them, but, I have
And
to
that
make
just
it
gives me
so that I
so
can
much
visualize it.
anxiety right now, having to think about memorizing something, and it would
Mm,
just felt so unfair. Like, I don't
yeah.
understand why I can't just be given the one-page cheat sheet with the equations, right?
There really is no way, because
And
it's all
so
about knowing how to use the tools that you have.
yeah, so what I would do is a brain dump. So I would like the hour
Mhm.
before the exam, I would just stare at it and stare at it and write it and write it and write it, and then I would just keep holding on, but it was like holding on to grains of sand as they're like falling through your fingers, and I would just brain dump on a piece of paper as soon as the exam started, just so I could like hold on to those equations, you know?
I remember that, yes. That
Mhm.
was terrifying for me 'cause
You were
as
probably
soon as
like,
we
"Just
got
here,
those
take them."
as soon as we got those papers, it was like writing as hard and as fast as you could, everything, and I was like,
Now
"She
you
knows
know
all the
why.
answers. She knows what she's doing."
Did
Ah.
not know. Just trying to get it out of my brain before I
I'm like,
forget it.
"I'm trying to visualize it right now, Natasha. You gotta be real quiet so I can picture it
You're very
perfectly in my
zen
head."
test taker.
So funny. Okay, that is just fascinating to me, these different ways that we're learning. So this might be an important thing for teachers just to do a check with your students and just see where they are, because I bet they don't know how they visualize things. And emphasizing that it's Like one's not better than the other. It just is a different way of doing things. Now, this does bring up something though that I think we need to clarify is that this is not the same thing as learning styles. We have already debunked that
I was
myth.
thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, which can sound really confusing because I still hear it all the time. People saying, I'm a visual learner, I'm an auditory learner. It's like, no, you are not. But you may visualize things differently than somebody else, and that may have implications to how you are retaining information, right?
And I do think that should be revisited in a different way. So the purpose of learning styles, kind of the trend that came out of that was we should teach kids differently. So we should have diagrams for the visual learners, lectures for the auditory learners. And how that was debunked was to say we should teach kids in all the ways. And the more different ways that you present the material, the more kids will retain it. With that said, each of us have our own like superpowers. So your superpower is this like ability to visualize these things right in your mind and like hold on to that information in a very visual way. Whereas like my husband is a very mathematical person. So he can like see the equations and it all is very intuitive to him. And he's like sees a graph and can like put the equation in his mind, right? Like, so I feel like we do all have these different kind of ways where we excel in how we retain information, understand information. But I think that should not impact the way that we're teaching kind of our standard classes, where we try to tailor learning to all these different quote styles, because that has been debunked. Whenever teachers try to do that, it doesn't have good learning outcomes. But when you just try to like teach it in different ways and try to, you know, support kids where they're at. So it's not so much like I'm a visual or non-visual learner. It's like, this is where I'm at with this math content. How do I get you to that next level? So it's differentiated learning. Yes, we love it versus like learning styles.
Yes, and it's encoding it in your brain in different ways when you teach it in different ways, and that repetition is always super important. So,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely do that. If anybody's interested in taking the Aphantasia quiz, there's a vividness of visual imagery questionnaire you can take, and it will give you the results of where you are. It'll diagnose you. I have
What
hyper.
percentage of people have this? This is what I wanted to look up.
It's very small. So it gave like a profile. And of course, this is a very short quiz that I took, and I was like, I don't know if this is very reliable. Um, but it's a very small percentage. So there's a big bell curve, and it looks like I'm in the 95th percentile of the population for
Oh,
vivid. So I would assume it's about the same, but I mean the
that's what
opposite
I
side.
remember. It was like 5%.
Yeah, I think that's about
I'm
right.
currently a support group on Facebook.
Oh, what do y'all do for support? What kind of support do you
It's
need?
just one of those like questions, one of those like groups, you know, and it's a lot of people that are in like 30s and above that have just realized this about themselves. And so most of the posts are, oh my gosh, I'm 63 years old and I just realized that everybody else can see in their brain and I can't, and I'm devastated and da da da. And so it's mostly people posting and like coming to this realization. And then everybody's like, you're not alone. But we're all
And
like, it all makes sense now.
if you've never realized it though, are you really at a disadvantage? I think you've been
Right.
you made it just okay, just as the rest of us. So yeah, more to come on this because I'm intrigued as far as what this means. And can you change any of this, or what do you do with this information? So
So let me give you a
Mhm.
positive so we don't end on a like, this is all terrible.
Yeah.
We talked about a few minutes ago how you kind of replay memories. And so I don't, and it like bad memories don't stick as much to me. And also, I'm very quick to forgive because, like, when people quote wrong me or do something negative, like, I'm very upset in the moment, but then, like, the next day, I like pretty much forget like that interaction, good or bad. Like I have memories. I'm not trying to say I don't have memories, but also like I'm just very quick to forgive and things just aren't as serious to me. Like they don't haunt me in ways that I hear other people with like hyper visualization do. And so I can say that's very much happy for that side of things.
Good for you.
We can unpack your end later.
I still hold grudges. I'm just kidding.
I'm
I mean,
so sorry for the time I was
I do
21.
replay things over and over again, and then I'm like, "Is that really what happened, or am I making that more than it was?" And that's where I am, which now I'm like, I bet I am visualizing things more extreme than actually happened. Like, what is my brain inserting in there that wasn't really a thing? So,
Yeah.
or is this your way of saying that I need to ask you for forgiveness because you probably already forgot about it, but I'm sorry for whatever I did that then you've forgotten.
I don't remember it. So
Well, let me read to you some news stories, and I want to see if you can picture these things in your brain. I tried to pick things that were more relatable than in past
okay.
news. So I've got three that I think you can whatever the word for not visualize it in your brain, but have it in your brain. I don't know.
It's all about vibes.
Vibes. If you can vibe this. Okay. First, what do mummies smell like? The answer is revealing ancient secrets. Can you smell in your
No, it's
brain?
gross. No.
Scientists at the University of Bristol discovered that the distinct scent of Egyptian mummies comes from chemicals left behind by embalming ingredients, such as oils, beeswax, plant resins, and bitumen. Is that how you pronounce that? I don't even know.
No idea.
By analyzing tiny samples of air around mummy fragments, researchers identified dozens of chemical compounds that reveal how mummification techniques evolved and became more sophisticated over more than 2,000 years. It's important work there. I don't know. This is number 2. New jerk signal could warn of volcano eruptions hours in advance. Scientists from the Institut de Physique du Globe de Paris and the GFZ Helmholtz Center for Geosciences developed a method called the jerk detector. I can see lots of uses there. That identifies tiny ground movements caused by magma rising underground. Tested for 10 years, the system successfully predicted 92% of eruptions, sometimes up to 8 hours in advance, offering a promising new tool for early volcanic warning.
Nice.
And number 3, last but not least, smart underwear reveals the truth about farts. Scientists at the University of Maryland created smart underwear, a wearable sensor that measures hydrogen in intestinal gas to track how often
No.
gas.
No.
Early results show people may fart about 32 times per day on average, more
No,
than
that's not
twice
true.
previous estimates.
Did you say twice?
More than twice the previous estimates. I don't know how if they like polled people, because you know that people underestimated how often. While the technology could help researchers better understand gut microbes and digestive health.
You know this is going to be our social media reel right there.
Emily, don't take that one. Hey, this all for science, right? Okay. Could you see
It
those
was bound to happen, I guess.
When I talked about smart underwear that detects farts, did you see anything in your head?
No. I was trying to do the math on how many times I think I fart a day. That's what I
was. Please report back.
I will.
Okay. Well, for now, stem space out.